An old friend in the Pebble smartwatch is returning, while another friend is leaving the US in the form of the latest ASUS Zenfone. AR glasses are getting so good thanks to XREAL, and I can't wait to use them with the new Nintendo Switch 2. That is, if I actually can. Let's talk about all of this on my first episode of my new show. Hey, it's Joshua Vergara. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Tech and Tea. Don't call it a comeback, because for Eric Mijikovsky, the Pebble never left his wrist in the first place. The founder of the old company that basically put Game Boy screens on our wrists and showed us what a fun and minimalist smartwatch could do is reviving Pebble. And all it took was simply asking Google to release the Pebble OS software to the public. Now, Pebble as a name is still something that Google owns, so the return of the e-paper or e-ink smartwatch will have to take on a new name. But apparently, its identity will remain about as quirky and minimalistic as it used to be. All of this actually made me look through my old boxes. Check this out. I found a few of my old Pebbles, including the Time Round that I believe is the watch that I bought right alongside Michael Fisher in the middle of a podcast that we were recording. Speaking of Fisher, he and I even did a memorandum collaboration when we said goodbye to the brand some years back. Clearly, I have plenty of memories with these old watches. The Pebble Time and the Time Round are probably my favorites, and what makes me really excited as an old diehard of the company is that when this new software finally comes out for the new watches, it might work for the old ones too. And that means I'll probably be doing what Eric Mijikovsky was doing and wear the round once again. And it might be the perfect opportunity for the Pebble, or whatever it is called, to come back as a reminder that tech doesn't have to be an all-in-one solution all the time. Smartwatches these days do so much more than bridge the gap between phone and user. I bet if some companies had their way, they'd actually say that their wearables literally will save your life. To have something that is just simple but eye-catching and ultimately unique in the market again is an exciting prospect in general. But from the return of one product, we find ourselves saying goodbye to another, as the ASUS Zenfone 12 Ultra was recently released, but not in the US. Cards on the table, I am a fan of the Zenfone lineup, and I actively bought and used previous editions as my main phones. But perhaps I was one of the few, because ASUS saw it better to just let the ROG phone stand on its own and be the smartphone representative for ASUS, which does make quite a bit of sense, considering that the last couple Zenfones were simply slight retouches on the ROG phones of that same year. That is to say, large screens, powerful specs, slightly better cameras that still paled in comparison to a lot of the phones that are just as big and chunky as the Zenfone, and a USB-C port placement that was directly influenced by the gamer phone counterpart. Now, I am quite sad at this development, but also I'm really not that surprised. What I really wished that the Zenfones would just do is to just stick to the aspects that made them stand out originally. You might remember that I was all about the flippy-dippy cameras from the Zenfone 6, the Zenfone 7, and even when they took those away and went for a new identity as being one of the most powerful small smartphones, I embraced that as well. But following the crowd was never going to bring back the old Zen magic, and this seems to be the result of that. Shouts out to the homie Matthew Moniz. His review of the Zenfone 12 Ultra really sums things up pretty well, especially when he gets to how much the thing actually costs. It's a good watch, especially if you're feeling the way I do about the Zenfone phasing out of some markets. So I'm going to link his video down in the description. And with that, the tea is ready, so let's go ahead and have our little tea break. Today's tea is the Geisha Blossom Tea from TWG. At its heart, it is a green tea, but there is an infusion of many different fruits and whatnot that give it a nice blossom, floral scent and taste. Seriously, thank you guys so much for watching this first episode of Tech and Tea. It's a concept that I've really wanted to finally put out there. I've been wanting to have a show called this for a long time, and it wasn't until Jaime Rivera actually helped me sort of conceptualize and ideate on what this show could look like that I was like, okay, let's go ahead and do it. And it's with that sentiment that in this tea break, I just want to impart to all of you, try some new things. Don't forget to try some new things. And by trying new things, I'm not saying that you have to try something that's radically different, and you certainly could, but you could also work within sort of your comfort level. I mean, as far as this new show is concerned that I'm hoping to do more regularly, it's still here in my office. It's still with the same general 3-camera setup that you're all used to. And I'm going to try to do things differently with it over time, but I don't have to be radical about it yet. Maybe it's working somewhere different or recreating your space to make it a little bit more inviting for the things you want to do. Trying new things doesn't have to be extreme. It could just be something that is fresh. So thank you for joining me while I try something new, and then I'm gonna go ahead and ask you, like I always do, what's going on, everybody? Let me know some new things that you're trying out in the comments down below. Also, let me know how you're doing in general, and remember to subscribe to my channel for more episodes like this, because I hope you come for the tech, but you stay for the tea. And with that, let's get back to the show and talk about this week's product showcase, a pair of AR glasses that should definitely be on your radar if they're not already on your face. I've looked at, or through, really, many different AR glasses, but there's always been like this quirk to them that kept them from being productivity, travel, or even daily essentials. At their core, these types of glasses are like putting a screen right up to your face, one that moves along with your head to keep whatever it is projecting in your view. And the quirk that I feel most people realize after trying these glasses for the first time is that our heads, they actually move a ton, and usually in like micro movements. And that movement then translates to the display that is trying to float comfortably in front of your eyes. For most people, that isn't really a problem, but when you actually want your digital world to seamlessly become part of your real world, that jarring movement is, well, jarring enough to make it uncomfortable. The solution, at least for a company like XREAL, has been a bridge peripheral called the XREAL Beam that adds stabilization and 3 degrees of freedom movement, either to the built-in software or via pass-through to the device that you are using. That is, until now, because a lot of what made the Beam an essential component to the AR glasses setup is now simply built into the glasses themselves. And honestly, it feels like a game changer. So much so that I've been using these glasses constantly since I first received them. These are the XREAL One. I'm a fan of AR glasses, I really am. As someone that travels a ton, it's great to have an easy way to just blast my games and my videos up to a large effective display without actually having to have that large display on me. It really feels like XREAL have taken a lot of lessons from previous offerings and put them all into one product, with the One being the result. They're not even done yet because there's a One Pro that's coming soon, and maybe I'll be able to talk about that in the future. Hint hint, XREAL. But first, let's take a look at these ones first. The One glasses look like most AR glasses, which is a feat considering all that is built in. A large front unit will house the dual micro OLED Sony displays that give you an effective screen size of well over 100 inches. I say effective screen size because, as with most AR glasses, it's all about perception. With a bit of pass-through sight through the actual lenses that are on here, you can perceive that the screen is somewhere in the real world, which is how an entire wall can seem like it's covered up by a screen that's, say, 141 inches large. The more distance there is between you and some sort of surface, the easier it is to create that perception. Speaking of pass-through, here is a lesson that XREAL brought to the One glasses. Electrochromic lenses are more than enough. The dimming ability is not new, but XREAL used to provide a shade that totally blacked out the glasses. While that shade could still be appreciated, going to the darkest setting is more than enough to get a properly immersive experience if you don't care to have full or even partial pass-through sight. Going 0% on the shade, however, is one of the ways in which the XREAL One really shines, but we'll get to that in a bit. XREAL's next lesson that they brought to the Ones is its marquee feature, and that is a built-in chip that provides the image stabilization and the 3 DOF, or degrees of freedom, that becomes essential when using these glasses consistently. As I said before, this is a game changer because now you don't need the extra beam peripheral in order to achieve that comfortable floating of the image over the jarring movements that used to follow every micro jitter of my head. Smooth Follow is the name of the mode in these glasses, which makes the screen glide along with you, but you can change things up by anchoring that display in real space. This is where the AR aspect can actually come into play. For example, you can go full transparency in the dimming mode, which lets you do stuff in the real world and then easily glance back over to the digital world like it's a TV just over on the side. You can imagine anchoring that second screen right to the side of a laptop screen where I'm typing up a script, but then I can glance down at the actual screen of my MacBook for any details that I might be researching, or to just glance at the game of Marvel Snap that I happen to be playing on the side. A shortcut button is here on the top of the right temple, and then there's a menu button below it, along with a brightness rocker, which you can also hold in order to change the various electrochromic dimming settings. You can hit that menu button and the menu comes up to change the effective size of the screen, how far the glasses will emulate that particular screen, and different modes that include the smooth follow and the anchoring that I just talked about. Again, what makes these glasses so nice is that all of those features and all of the various things you can do are just built right in, simply powered by whatever product you have these connected to. And as long as the connected device has DisplayPort capabilities in the USB-C port, the XREAL One will just boot up and connect. It's the real definition of plug and play. It goes beyond the projected display, however, because another lesson XREAL brought into these glasses is good audio. XREAL brought some real sound to the One glasses, and the result is basically an all-in-one solution that covers both the visual and auditory needs. Now more than ever, I feel like taking one hell of a gaming or quick YouTube viewing break is as easy as connecting and putting on this pair of glasses, since the sound is more than decent enough on its own and I don't have to reach for anything else. Now, cards on the table, it's important to remember that with speaker units like this that are just pointing down into your ears as opposed to having something like in them, things are just going to sound pretty different. Bass, for example, is really hard to achieve with something like this, and if you are using these speakers to like drown out the outside world, well, the outside world will be able to hear what you are listening to because of the sound bleed. If you want a full immersive experience that is really just for you, then headphones are always an option. But making every part of the experience easier just means that these glasses are easy to reach for in so many scenarios. Playing something on my ROG Ally X, plug in the XREAL One, and then charge as well since it does have two USB-C ports. Playing on the Nintendo Switch, that's when I reach for the XREAL Hub instead of the bigger beam accessory because again, all the stabilization features are now built right into the glasses. Looking for a much bigger display than the one on my laptop? I can plug right in, hit the ultra-wide mode, and get a massive super long display that I can organize for maximum productivity. It's pretty crazy video editing with a super long timeline even if I have to move my head around more because it's an anchored 244-inch effective super wide display. And then my last favorite way of using the XREAL One, it's called side view, which puts the display in the corner of my periphery like around here so that I can still listen to any media that's coming through the glasses and then glance to the corner whenever I want to actually see or watch whatever is playing. This is the way that I get things done around the house. Connect to my phone, play something through the glasses, and then put the phone in my pocket and do whatever I need to do. So with the dimming at its lowest level, I can do things like fold laundry and wash dishes comfortably and still keep up with my YouTube videos or shows or podcasts. So really, for me, these glasses have been the one. Sorry, I had to do it. Also, I can't see anymore, so I gotta put them back on. These glasses aren't perfect, but it's hard for me to really find that many flaws in this pair of AR glasses that needed just one key convenience factor built in finally. As a result, the XREAL One is as close to perfect as we've gotten in this category so far. And like I said before, they're slated to get even better, not just with the Pro version that is on the way, but also with the expansion of these modular cameras that make the One a spatial video recorder. I don't have that add-on on mine, but they would go right here under the nose piece. And so, there you have it. AR glasses are getting so good and XREAL are leading the charge with some internal development that make the One glasses an easy recommendation when you just want something that works out of the box. The result is an extra pair of smart glasses that now always occupy a spot in my backpack in case I want to zone out or even lock in. And it might be the way that I find myself enjoying the Nintendo Switch 2 when it finally comes out, which leads me to some thoughts on what might be this year's most anticipated gaming release. So I just wanted to talk a little bit less about the news of the Nintendo Switch 2 being announced and more about, well, my projected concerns with the actual console itself. Now, this is all based upon the lack of information we have so far, but these are still concerns nonetheless. So let's get started. One of my concerns is that the Nintendo Switch 2 is definitely larger, but not necessarily flashier. By now, we've had a lot of looks at the Nintendo Switch 2 after its announcement back on January 16 using this very video, right down to having what actually looks like a full-on look at the actual activated Joy-Cons courtesy of accessory maker Genki, who showed off some of the items that they are making for the new handheld. The teaser that Nintendo put out already made a great case that the original Switch experience is getting upgraded in meaningful ways. You could see here with this kickstand, the updated kickstand, and obviously the larger OLED screen, which I hope is an OLED screen. I'm saying that now. I want it to be an OLED screen. Now, that larger size is already enticing, but one thing that I noticed with the design of the Switch 2 so far is that it is really in line with a lot of the handheld PCs that we have right now. That is to say, it's basically a black on black slab that is a bit more practical than it is quirky. Now, if you see here, the signature Joy-Con colors are still there, but are essentially hidden within the areas that attach to the main console and screen. There is a little bit of color in the joysticks as well, just in the base of them, But all of this just makes me a little bit bummed, so far, that the new Switch 2 will just blend in a little too much with my Steam Deck or my ROG Ally-X. For a company that does a great job of standing out from basically everyone else, this doesn't feel a whole lot like that. Which takes me to the actual thoughts around the build. With these Joy-Cons, they don't slide in anymore, they literally snap on. Not only does this mean a physical different experience when it comes to the Switch, it also means there's going to be a different sound, a new sound that changes from the iconic click that we've had for years now. I'm not too bummed about the new sound, but I will miss it. What I get a little bit worried about though is this connection point. There's a circuit that is sticking right out of the side of the Switch that I feel could be too exposed to the elements. Now, the contact points on the original Switch are more common in tech because even if moisture gets on them, they can get wiped up without much issue. But a whole circuit that's just sticking out might not fare very well in comparison to that. I think there are two possibilities on how Nintendo works with this new Joy-Con connection. One, and the less likely thing that might happen, is that the Switch 2 has some sort of strong water resistance. Number two, I think there will be another silicone or plastic piece that comes with the Switch 2 that Nintendo will have to inevitably teach us how to use through those classic Japanese instructionals or quick setup guides that we have to always put them on there if the Joy-Cons are not attached to the console, like so. And on to the concern that actually ties in with this week's product showcase with these XREAL One glasses. Apparently on the Switch 2, there will be a second USB-C port, and that is super exciting for accessories to work on the console even though it's still docked, or you might have it plugged in on the other port for charging. That's awesome, especially if the USB-C port has display out capabilities, which means that glasses like the XREAL One can just plug and play without the need of the hub or some sort of extra accessory. So what's my concern? Well, it's that Nintendo pulls a Switch 1 and doesn't put all of that capability into one or either of the USB-C ports. I'm optimistic that they will do all of that, but we're also talking about Nintendo here. They're about as traditionalist and old school as they are petty. My next concern regards the power of the console. Now, we don't know what is actually in the console powering what will hopefully be upgraded gaming experiences on the Switch 2. We did have a look at Mario Kart here, and it does seem to have some updated graphics and whatnot. This does look like a new Mario Kart game, but in reality, Nintendo has never really been about the graphics race. It's more about character, fun, and unique gameplay that apparently will include the fact that, well, the Joy-Cons can now be used like a mouse. I'm really interested in what that could mean for future styles of gameplay. My worry is that Nintendo will go the same route as the Switch 1 and only put in graphics performance that is ultimately made for their first-party titles, while ports require massive downgrades in their graphical quality, and that makes them honest wastes of money when you have other consoles or PCs, or at best, terrible consolation prizes when all you do game on is a Switch. On the other hand, there could be a world where the chipset in the Switch 2 is actually plenty powerful, and that means Nintendo will join the graphics race. Could that mean that Nintendo titles start losing their quirkiness and unique gameplay in favor of things like hyperrealism? I doubt it, honestly, but like I said, there could be a world where that actually happens, and at least in that case, ports could actually become more viable and more abundant, making the Nintendo Switch 2 more in line with the PC handhelds that it basically forced companies to develop. That would be kind of cool, but again, that would make the Switch less unique in the greater market of handheld gaming, and that's not really what I want for them. Okay, my final concern for now, as we wait for more information on the Switch 2, and I wait to find out if I'm actually going to go to one of those Nintendo Switch 2 experience events, is what's the catch? Current speculation on the price of the Switch 2 seems to have pretty reasonable reactions and even some kind of excitement for some, but I want to know where we're going to have something be maybe less developed or less than stellar, because Nintendo has to leave room for future versions of their consoles to rectify those omissions. That's exactly what happened with the Switch 1. We had to wait 4 years for Bluetooth audio support to finally be added. We had to wait for the OLED to come out so we could get a better screen and an actual usable kickstand. And maybe with the Switch 2, some form of the previous concerns I just talked about will actually happen, and then Nintendo just gets to rectify them sometime later. So again, I ask, what's gonna be the catch? And I ask that while freely admitting that even if there is a catch, or if any of my concerns truly come to pass, make no mistake, I'm absolutely buying a Switch 2 when it comes out. To watch future content on that and my thoughts on what worked and what didn't with the Nintendo Switch 2 when it finally comes out, make sure to subscribe to my channel. And so, there you have it, the first episode of Tech and Tea in the books. Let me know what you think of everything discussed podcast in the comments down below. Let me know what you were sipping on while kicking it with me today. Special thanks once again goes out to Jaime Rivera, my brother in tech, for helping me put together what I hope will be a regular show here on my channel. Because again, I hope you come for the tech, but you stay for the tea. From there though, I'm going to go ahead and call it on this one. Thank you so much for kicking it with me again today. Please take care of yourselves and each other, and enjoy your tea, everybody.